You're listening to Ecto Portal, a journey into the unknown with Anthony Anderson and Verna Wilson.
I hope that you are seated comfortably, with the light turned down and the curtains drawn.
Hello, welcome to another journey into the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplored, the unexplained Ecto Portal. I'm Anthony Anderson, your host, and I'm here with my co-host,
Verna Wilson. Hello, everybody.
And what is the episode this time around, Verna?
It's going to be about the Hollywood Forever Cemetery, and that's a cemetery that fascinates most people because it's lots of famous Hollywood stars are buried there, and of course, it's a cemetery where lots of people are buried, not just Hollywood stars. Yeah. But it has a lot of ghost stories and lore about that cemetery. I've actually visited at one point, and
I have not.
well, we're going to have to visit it very soon. And I think it's a place where if you want to witness paranormal activity, or if you want to even feel it, that's the place to feel it. Trust me.
All right. So that's cool. So it's another Hollywood episode. A lot of our Hollywood episodes seem to be really popular. In fact,
they are very popular.
I was thinking about this when we were mentioning this topic earlier about a possible show. Because we did the Cursed Ring of Valentino, which I really liked.
That was a great show. Just
doing research for that particular show.
We found out a lot.
Yeah, there is a whole lot. I noticed a lot of misconceptions in a lot of articles, and when you really start to dig, you start to realize what was the truth and what was other people's hearsay about what happened.
Right, and especially since we live in San Francisco, we were able to find out, since he bought it here, we were able to find out a little bit more about the shop in the area where he bought it from.
That's right, what street was it, Kearney?
He bought it on Kearney Street, and I found out that a lot of jewelry shops antique stores were located around Kearney Street, around downtown Union Square, the financial district, and downtown. And that was the main focus where they were located. And I actually took a 1920s shop directory and looked it up.
And he was staying at the St. Francis Hotel, which was not far from there, so that makes sense.
It makes sense it was around there.
It was around there that he would go shopping for a ring or jewelry in general.
Yeah.
It's a great episode. So if you guys want to check out that episode of the Curse of Valentino's Ring, definitely check out that Ecto Portal episode. It's one of the better ones.
Yeah, it's a really good one, folks. I recommend you hearing that. And that kind of adds to the lore of what we're talking about now, because he is buried in that cemetery.
Yep.
And so anyway, we're going to be getting to all of that and talking all about the cemetery, the lore, and the stories, and where it's located for anybody who wants to visit.
See, Hollywood even has dramatic stories, even in death.
Even in death, it sure does. Hollywood is full of them, actually.
Famous people buried there: Douglas Fairbanks, Tyrone Power, Peter Lorre, Marion Davies, Carl Alfalfa Switzer, Charlie Chaplin Jr., Fay Ray of King Kong, guitarist Johnny Ramone,
Marilyn Monroe, and Johnny Ramone. Let's see, the director of the Ten Commandments, Cecil B. DeMille.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of those graves a lot of the graves and the mausoleums and the sculpture there is so beautiful. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People like to picnic, and they actually have movies, I think, in the cemetery during the summer as well.
They do, and yeah, it's and they actually have I think a little picture, a little mausoleum as well.
Yeah.
Where you can come through, and they have a little directory where they can show you where all the graves are. Yeah.
That's cool, so you can find certain people.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So,
you want to start us off?
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to start off with what's going on in your mind, and I'd say what's going on in my mind lately is that I think more people and animals more are starting to become psychically aware because of planet changes and what's going on with the world. Not that they animals intellectually are
just instinctively,
but instinctively, yeah. Because I think
well, the Amazon's burning now.
The Amazon's burning. Yeah, I know that's terrible. That's really terrible. Yep. And I think, and I see people reacting and being more considerate about nature lately, more considerate about the changes, and tuning themselves to be aware instinctively, psychically instinctively. And we all know that animals sense these things first. Because my cats, when I frankly get worried when they're acting weird. I mean, they always act weird. They're weird cats.
Well, I think it should be more than worry you. It should just be an alert for you, like, hey, pay attention to stuff around you right now. Right.
So, I mean, they're both a couple of weird cats anyway, because one minute...
Weird. She dresses them up. It's frightening.
Yeah, Anthony's seen them. He knows it. He knows they're weird. I mean, they'll be resting like 1 minute, and then they'll be fighting the next, but that's just cat behavior. But then there's times when they'll stand up and they'll start looking around, or they'll start hissing, or walking around with their tails, their backs all humped, and I'm just like, what's going on with those two? So... I think that if anybody has animals, or anybody has friends or relatives that have been acting different lately, and they're acting more aware, I think it's part of society kind of, I don't want to say growing up, but...
Well, here's a question for you, based on what you just said.
Right.
Global warming, do you think it will have an impact on paranormal experiences?
Of course it will.
Because as the polar ice caps melt, it's more water. Water is energy. Energy is activity.
I'd say it will, because I don't know about you, but I feel thunderstorms bring out paranormal activity.
Any kind of storm, really.
Any kind of storm. Rain does.
Yeah.
Thunderstorms do. And I feel even more than sunny weather. So I feel as weather changes go on, and the world changes... Everything. I mean, it's all connected. Everything's connected. So it's all going to change.
And I think what's on, and I noticed this a lot lately when I've been reading different articles in the paper, because the water temperatures in the oceans are getting warmer.
Yeah.
I'll notice a lot of these strange, weird creatures are washing ashore more and more frequently.
Oh, right.
Things that we've never seen before, like giant eels, things that are just so weird looking because they're so deep. They live so deep that obviously they're coming up.
They're coming up more,
because either they're hungry or it's just too warm, so they're looking for a place to go where it's not such warm water. They end up dying.
And that could be the Nessie sightings too. The sightings of the Loch Ness monster.
Maybe again, it's changing the loch. Maybe the loch is warming up. Therefore, they're coming more and more to the surface. Maybe the food's not there anymore, so they're coming up looking for it.
Yeah, could be.
I think that has a lot to do with a lot of these sightings, and people will say, oh my god, it's a creature from another dimension. Well, in a way it is. It's from another deep dimension, miles in the water. And
Sure.
So that's just a place we've never seen, and there's creatures living down there that we've never seen. So
I've always hoped that we'll never see them, because the ocean needs to be left in peace.
Well, it's like the one frontier we haven't exploited, so...
Yeah, I know. I know. Sometimes I worry that something that's going to be exploited or known should have been left alone, so that... But, can't control that kind of thing.
Yeah, I just think we're going to see a lot more of these weird creatures from the ocean
Yeah.
washing ashore. I think we're going to see like schools of creatures washing ashore dead.
Well, there's been whale deaths in the Bay Area. Yeah.
That should tell you something. That
It
means
should.
there's definitely a shift going on.
Right.
And who knows how much. I'm sure it's going to get worse before it ever gets better, if it gets better. Mm-hmm. They may not be able to change or fix it. We may be losing a lot of animals or whales and things that we take for granted.
Oh, I know.
They may be all gone in 10 years because of this.
Which is sad. That's why we have to take care of things now. I mean, I don't even know if it's too late, but at least we got to care about it a little.
Yeah.
You
We
know?
live here. It's,
Yeah.
So
Leave something to your kids, your grandkids,
it's
folks.
a little disheartening, but we'll see what happens, I guess.
You know what? I do find, though, that there's hope, is that a lot of the younger generation are environmentally aware, and they're trying to do something about it. A lot of them, like I heard about this young boy who invented this machine to clean up the
Oh,
ocean.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
A couple articles on it. But it kind of sweeps the surface.
They're giving me
to
hope.
collect plastics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're giving me hope, these people.
But it's
These
You know
kids.
what's sad is that
Yeah.
we have to invent machines to clean up after our piggy mess.
After we do. I know.
I mean, that's how bad we are. The younger generation now has to invent things to clean up the horrible mess that's been left behind.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be that people who cared about the earth and the environment were considered radicals. When we had Earth Day, that was considered a radical thing.
Yep.
We had groups like Earth First.
Yep.
You know, it was considered very radical. Now it's considered the norm to care about it, but I think that it's the younger generation who's trying to do something, and not that the older isn't, but
Yeah.
anyway, I think there's hope.
I hope so.
Yeah. Now, what's on your mind?
Just that.
Just that?
That was
Yeah.
just talking about that, and then the Valentino's cursed ring, just because I did a lot more research after we did our show, and it connects a lot with this show topic.
It really does.
And we'll have a lot more shows about Hollywood, haunted Hollywood, because there's so much there and available that we'll do a lot more shows in the future. But this is one I think ties them all together.
We are, and you know, I think that you and I talked about visiting some places where Valentino used to frequent. So we might actually have some future shows based on those places we go to.
There is. I know we talked about this before. He used to have an apartment in downtown LA.
Yeah.
It's still there.
It's
I don't
still
know
there,
for how
yeah.
long, because the building was purchased, but people have been able to get in there because the neighboring bookstore, the owner has access to Valentino's suite.
Wow.
And he's taken people up there to look around. Everything's still there. There's a TV there, a bed frame,
I wanna go.
bookshelves, fixtures, all from the 19s.
Oh, wow.
And it's all red velvet wallpaper. It's all still there.
Wow, I want to see it.
If you go on YouTube, you can actually look at Valentino's apartment, and you can see it.
Oh yeah, I'm going to look at that.
But I want to go. I want to get in there because I know they sold it, and they're going to probably rip it out and turn it into something else.
Oh wow, I hope we can make it there.
I would restore Valentino's suite, and that way, if you have a hotel, people can stay in Valentino's suite.
Oh yeah, as long as
That would be what I would rent it out.
that would be
But
cool.
Still, it made me think of this show when you did that. It made me think of that show that we did.
Yeah. So folks, listen to it if you can. It's a great show.
It is. It turned out really well.
Yeah.
All right. So when was this cemetery first founded?
It was actually founded in 1899. It's located on Santa Monica Boulevard in Hollywood. And the Hollywood Forever Cemetery is the resting place for hundreds of Hollywood stars and famous people. But it's also a fully operating cemetery that's still performing new burials and cremations every single week.
It's active.
It's very active, yeah. It's an active cemetery. And today its owner was once an advisor on the television series 6 Feet Under.
Very good show.
Yeah.
Excellent show. That's
Yeah.
interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we mentioned some of the stars that were buried in that cemetery. I'm going to go ahead and mention them again. Douglas Fairbanks, Tyrone Power, Peter Lorre, Marion Davies, Carl Alfalfa Switzer, Charlie Chaplin Jr., and Freeway of King Kong, and guitarist Johnny Ramone. And then there's Rudolph Valentino, there's Marilyn Monroe. And if anybody was a fan of Andy Gibb from the Bee Gees, he's buried there too.
Oh, Andy's there? Okay.
Yeah, he's there because a friend of mine visited his grave, and I was with her when she did. And
did she wail and fall on it? No.
No, she just visited. She used to be a huge Andy Gibb fan, and she wanted to visit it. So she asked me if she could stop there, and I said, why not? I mean, it gave me a chance to see the place. And the director of the Ten Commandments, Cecil DeMille. Yeah. Big
director.
Right. And you know that during the making of that film, he buried his enormous Egyptian sets in the dunes of west of Guadalupe along the California coast?
I do.
That's very cool.
And also in the Ten Commandments, do you know the church down on, what is it, Washington Square Park in North Beach?
Yes.
That church was being built. You can see it half built in the Ten Commandments.
You can. Wow. You know, I actually met Charlton Heston once. He was very good looking, but because he was such an advocate of gun control at the time.
Who was? Who did you meet?
Charlton Heston. I met him once.
Okay, yeah, he was definitely an NRA man.
Yeah, a lot of people were very didn't care for him that much, but I'm not a political person, so I'm neutral with all of that stuff.
Yeah, that has little to do with the man as an actor. So.
Right, has little to do with it. But anyway, I met him very briefly at a Hollywood Collectors show. I thought he was very good looking, and I thought he was very nice.
That's cool. You just got to meet him. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he was busy signing autographs and stuff like that. And anyway, the reason I say that is because I heard people talking about that while I was there, but I'm sure he was a nice person and he seemed okay to me. So, but anyway, I don't know if he's buried there.
They said DeMille is easy to find on the road going to the left from the main gate.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
And I think they say he has a large tomb that has two matching stone
sarcophagus.
Sarcophagus, and he's easy to find. Like you said, it's located on the right side.
He's waving at you. No, just kidding.
Oh, that's funny. It's beautiful the sculpture for that grave. And another person buried there is Griffith J. Griffith, the wealthy businessman responsible for donating Griffith Park to Los Angeles.
That's a big gift to Hollywood because they use it for a lot of exteriors.
He thought the land was cursed and that a ghost stalked it.
That's interesting. We should look into that more and see if we can dig more of the story out of that.
Yeah, we should.
That's interesting.
But his donation of the land, followed by the willing of even more money after his death, helped build the second largest park in California and contributed the construction of the Griffith Observatory.
Have you ever been there? Griffith Observatory?
No, I never have.
Up on the hill. It's very, very
I'd love
cool.
to see it.
I've always been there just after the sun's gone down. It's dusk. You can look over Los Angeles with the sunset's gone down.
Wow, I bet it's gorgeous.
Because they, Rebel Without a Cause, they did a whole scene up there.
Oh, they did?
Yeah. And there's a statue of James Dean up there as well that you can see.
Oh, wow. Oh, I love astronomy and I love going to observatories, so that would be very cool. Now, they mentioned that that there was a historical fact that he tried to kill his wife because he believed that she was conspiring against him with the aid of the Catholic Pope.
What?
Yeah, that was a fact about him. But
sounds crazy.
Well, sounds like
doesn't he sound a little crazy?
That sounds a little kooky to me.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I mean, he's saying the Pope conspired with her.
He claims that she was conspiring against him with the aid of the Catholic Pope to kill and that he tried to kill his wife.
So the Pope was helping her, so he was... Okay, that's just...
Yeah, he tried to kill her because he believed she was conspiring against him with the aid of the Catholic Pope. I don't know...
That's got to be the craziest thing
I never heard of such a crazy thing in my life, but...
Wow.
But then, was he sick? Did he have dementia when he said that?
All of the above.
All of the above, yeah. And... I'm going to tell everybody here now that we're talking about the cemetery. When I visited there, when I visit that cemetery, I actually was freaked out by it. It was not a happy visit for me.
The whole thing, or just parts of it?
The whole thing.
Okay.
It's a beautiful cemetery. The grounds are beautiful. It's quiet and peaceful. But at the time, I was very open psychically. And I felt freaked out because I felt energy around me, following me in that cemetery. And you're going to probably think, oh, psycho, paranoid. I wasn't. I didn't feel that way any other time. But I felt that way walking around the cemetery.
She just bats at the air when you walk down the street with her. Just
Oh
ignore
yeah,
it.
of course that's what I do. And I walked into and I had to use the restroom, so I walked into the office there where the restrooms were, and it's a mortuary as well, and there's a register office, and I felt the creepiest energy when I walked into that place. And I just ran to the bathroom, went in, and ran out. And my friend, she said, "What's the matter?" I said, "I don't like the energy in that building. I don't like it." And so she went to go visit the grave that she was visiting, and she was putting flowers, and she was standing there, you know, contemplating and being quiet. And I'm walking around, and every so often I would walk to her. I said, "Okay, I'm ready to go." She said, "I'm not ready yet." I said, "Well, I am." She said, "Come on, go see some more famous graves. Go, leave." And I'm like, "This place is giving me the creeps. I'm ready to go." She would be like, "Verna, I want 50 more minutes." I'm like, "Okay,
We're not going to do that if we go. You're not going to do
Oh,
that
I'm not
going
to do. No. My energy is more balanced now. I'm not as open.
I'll make you stand at the gate. If
No,
that's the
I'm still open, but I know how to balance it better now.
okay.
I'll be fine now. But I was walking around, and I wasn't trying to enjoy the graves. I was looking at, you know, all these monuments and these graves, these famous people.
Yeah.
But I kept feeling the creeps, and even I was getting goosebumps around me, and I was feeling the creeps, and then I walked up, and she looked at me. She goes, "You're ready to go, right?" And I go, "Uh-huh." I said, "We're out of here." She goes, Okay. She goes, "Geez." She goes, "Can I look around the graves for a little bit?" And I was like, "Oh, for Pete's sake." And I'm like, okay, look. And she did, and she goes, "Okay, Verna, we're ready to go." And I go, "Whoa, thank God." And I left. But you know what? I'm not going to do that next time. But I'm letting everybody know that was my experience. Okay, so we're going to go back to the stories here.
Oh yeah, the gangster guy. Next, Bugsy Siegel, Benjamin Siegel, known as mobster Bugsy Benjamin Siegel, was assassinated at his girlfriend Virginia Hill's mansion in Beverly Hills. He's buried in the giant mausoleum in the back right-hand corner near the Paramount Studios. His ghost is said to still haunt Virginia Hill's house, as well as the Grand Hotel The Flamingo in Las Vegas.
And we all know the Flamingo was known as a very mob-owned hotel at the time.
I have no doubt that he still hangs around.
Yeah. So, so as they mentioned that after all of the dead and resting residents at the hotel, they finally get to all the dead and non-resting residents of the cemetery. If rumors are to believe, there are at least 3 separate ghostly entities lurking around the grounds of Hollywood Forever, and countless more wandering around and spooking the other properties nearby. According to the locals, they have spotted ghosts there, and they have spotted them around the properties nearby. And of course, everybody knows my experience. I'm not surprised about that. It was originally located on 100 acres. 40 acres of the cemetery were sold to Paramount Studios and RKO Pictures, along with the south-facing part of the property, long ago in the 20s. So Paramount Studios is still there, although RKO Pictures, maker of King Kong, is no longer around.
Yeah.
So with the close proximity to the cemetery, Paramount Studios has been described as one of the most haunted movie studios in town, which doesn't surprise me one bit.
Big surprise. So yeah, Paramount's got to be really haunted.
It has to be, and they mentioned that some of the stories are that the dead, a lot of the ghosts there will walk straight through the walls from the cemetery and into the movie studio.
Oh my God.
And the stages of Paramount Studios that are located are the closest to the cemetery report seeing spirits clothed in 30s and 40s garb.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and although they report hearing mysterious footsteps wander through the studios and equipment being turning on and off. So who knows, maybe it's their burial suits or, you know, people who used to frequent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or worked in the studio. Who knows? Located a few feet from the cemetery on the Lemon Grove side is one of the many entrances into the Paramount Studios. However, this is often used by the studio's ghostly visitors. Apparently, some of the ghosts stroll in walking straight through the gate, whereas others actually poke their heads and occasionally walk through the wall. You've already said that. Guards have reported seeing the specter of Rudy Valentino strolling into the studio through the Lemon Grove gate. One of the many ghosts that possibly resides within the cemetery, though, isn't Rudy, but instead of a ghostly woman in black who visits him, bringing flowers. Now, Valentino died at age 31 on August 23, 1926, following surgery from a gastric ulcer. In New York, it is suspected that 100,000 fans gathered outside the funeral home in New York City. It's even rumored that a wax replica was utilized at the service in order to protect the real body of Valentino, safe from his adoring fans. I don't believe that.
I don't believe it either.
As his body was brought back to California, fans gathered in railway stations across the United States to simply catch a glimpse of the train carrying him. And in Hollywood, over 80,000 mourners visited the Hollywood Forever Cemetery when Valentino arrived there to be interred. Even a plane flew overhead, raining thousands of rose petals down on the proceedings. Valentino was placed in a temporary spot in the Cathedral Mausoleum. Rudy Valentino was entombed in the second hallway on the left side of the Cathedral Mausoleum. He's found in the far left corner of the third alcove.
I've seen it. Yeah.
The spot was only supposed to be temporary. A grand and large memorial was supposed to be designed, including several life-size statues of Valentino. The temporary crypt came from Rudolph Valentino's friend, June Mathis, who owned two spots next to each other within the cemetery. Sadly, she suffered a heart attack less than a year after Valentino's death and is now laid to rest in the crypt next to him. Valentino's family purchased from Mathis's widower the crypt that Rudolph resided in later when all plans for Valentino's memorial had fallen through, thus making his temporary home his permanent home until this day.
Now, the woman in black...
Kind of sad, though.
It is very sad. Has anybody ever really seen her?
People have.
They have?
They used to. They haven't seen her since the 70s, I guess, from what I understand.
Okay, well, if she was
around...
around...
There is a woman that shows up in black and pretends to be the woman in black, so it kind of destroys the real mythos story.
Okay, but the real one, nobody's seen for a long time.
Yeah, they have a hunch. They assume she probably died in the 70s. Mm-hmm. The last few times they really saw her. And then she didn't appear for years, and then someone started pretending to be her. So she was probably elderly and died.
Probably. Now, they said that one rumor was that the woman was Paula Negri, who claimed to have been engaged to him at the time of his death.
She was a little obsessed with Valentino, actually.
Yeah, and friends and family seemed conflicted on the veracity of her claim. Others thought it was a fan mimicking one of his works where a woman dressed completely in black visits his grave year after year. And in the 40s, a woman named Marion Watson came forward and proclaimed that she was the lady in black, and that Valentino had proposed marriage to her before he died, and that he fathered at least one of her children.
So that sounds like a crazy fanatic fan.
Yeah. And then another woman came forward with outlandish claims of their past lives of Valentino. And finally, a woman named Dietra Flame came forward. Supposedly, when Dietra was very young, she became seriously ill and she was in the hospital. Valentino was friends with Dietra's mother and came to visit the sick girl, bringing her a single red rose. He told her, "You're not going to die at all. You're going to outlive me by many years. But one thing for sure, if I die before you do, please come and stay by me, because I don't want to be alone either. You come and talk to me." And she recovered shortly after his visit, and after he passed away, remembering what he said, she visited him yearly, but never publicized her story. And she finally came out when too many pretenders began appearing. You know, that sounds more realistic to me, because that sounds like something he would have done.
Yeah.
I heard he was a really nice person.
It was like a nice personal gesture for him, like, come visit me, talk to me, say hi, keep me company. And then obviously the fans get ridiculous about this kind
They
of
do.
stuff.
But they mentioned that she finally, that she sadly became one of the many ladies in black visiting his grave, causing an annual memorial service. So she was frustrated at the large production that was being made out of her annual trip, so she stopped visiting for many years before resuming wearing street clothing in 1977. And in 1984, she passed away, and she was buried in San Jacinto, California, and her tombstone identifies her as a lady in black. So I have a feeling that it was probably her, and she got sick of all the excuse me, my
imposters,
the bullshit. And she probably thought, forget it. And then she came back later after it died down.
I agree.
Yeah. So
other recognized ladies in black are Estrelita Del Rigo, who visited Valentino's crypt from the 1970s through 1993 before illness prevented her from continuing her annual visits. Now a yearly memorial service occurs with hordes of ladies in black, all competing with grief over the dead actor. Some are even cross-dressers. One's an African-American woman named Diane Whitmore, dressed all in white, trying to start yet another tradition. Despite all these new ladies in black, many visitors still believe the original lady in black, whoever she may be, still spiritually visits the grave, placing flowers at it, her ghostly presence still paying her respects to the deceased and honored actor once known as the Sheik.
I can imagine his ghost shaking his head, going, "Ay, ay, 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 ay."
Probably no. I have a hunch he would laugh. I have a hunch
he would probably laugh. Yeah, but well, you know, I feel it was that Dietrich lady, the one who
I think so too.
in the hospital.
Sounds like
that sounds more plausible.
She didn't do it for publicity. She did it for years before anybody even knew about it. And she didn't get any money out of it. She got nothing out of it.
And I heard he was a really nice person. He used to visit people in the hospital, and he was very down to earth.
Also a slut. So just so you know, if you read his biography.
Well,
no, really, he was a slut.
I believe it.
He would do anything to anyone for money or gain. Just so you know.
I'm not making excuses for him, but he was also a poor immigrant who needed to survive.
Yes, that's how he survived. That was part of the way he survived at one point. But yeah.
So also haunting the cemetery is supposedly the ghost of Clifton Webb, who died in 1966. Now, Webb was the original Mr. Belvedere in 3 different movies released between 1948 and 1951. And he haunts the Abbey of the Psalms Mausoleum. And they claim that there's been strange lights, some cold air drafts, which we know is common, smells of cologne, and whispered voices have been reported coming in from the mausoleum, which doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
His ghost is also rumored to haunt his old house at 1005 Rexford Drive in Beverly Hills. Even while alive, he believed that his house was haunted by a ghost, and after his mother died, he believed that her spirit moved in as well.
Interesting.
So if you add his own spirit, there could be as many as 3 different ghosts residing within the Beverly Hills house. So
look that up. Where's Cliff Webb's house?
We they don't say where it is here, don't they?
We'll have to look that up.
We'll have to look that up, yeah. But he's been reputably haunting an old throne-like chair that he gave to his longtime friend and psychic, Dr. Kenny Kingston. And the chair occupies a place of honor in Kingston's home, surrounded by velvet ropes, which sounds interesting.
He must look a little goofy.
I never heard of Dr. Kenny Kingston.
I've never heard of him.
Yeah, I have to look him up. But it also apparently loathes having women sit on it, particularly ejecting...
Oh, you skipped a part before that.
Oh, well, the chair... Oh, I'm sorry. The chair is actually moved multiple times during the seances, yeah. And it doesn't like having women sit on it. And apparently it ejects them if possible. I'm going to try to...
That's hysterical. A chair that doesn't like women to sit in it.
Well, better not eject me. I'll sit on the darn thing if I want to.
Throw your ass on the floor.
Yeah. No, I'll sit on it. So there. I'm just kidding.
The last spirit said to reside with Hollywood Forever's walls is the ghost of Virginia Rapp. Now, Virginia Rapp attended a party on Labor Day in 1921 in San Francisco at the St. Francis Hotel.
Which we did a show on, folks.
Which we did a show on and had good evidence.
Yeah, we did.
The party was in celebration of a recent contract that Roscoe Fatty Arbuckle, a famous comedian actor at the time, he had recently acquired. During the party, Rapp became ill. An ambulance was required to come get her. A few days later, she died at the age of 26. Now, something I found out, which I had to dig. Mm-hmm. She was taken to a small women's hospital on the Visadero.
I knew about that, yeah.
It was a small little hospital on the Visadero. It wasn't a big whole hospital.
Right.
Where she died. A scandal immediately ensued, claiming that Arbuckle had raped the young Virginia. After 3 amazing trials, the first 2 ended up with hung juries. Arbuckle was eventually found not guilty, but his career never recovered. And now in Hollywood Forever Cemetery, an icy coldness seems to surround her grave. Additionally, the sound of sobbing has been heard in the area as well. Is she still suffering from her ordeal?
Or maybe she knew what happened and she feels horrible about it.
Could be.
Yeah.
Today, the cemetery is beautifully kept. Several visitors a day. It continues to build, providing new burial locations for future inhabitants and stars. Maps available in the flower shop next to the entrance. It shows where many of the famous stars are located. I'm sure that comes in value when you're looking to.
You know, I was on YouTube. I actually, speaking of Fatty Arbuckle, I actually on YouTube I ran across an elderly lady who was a child, who was an extra on a set that he was on, a movie set that he was on when she was just a child. Yeah. And she remembers that that when they were waiting for this one scene to be shot, there was this big guard dog in the studio, and this little kid, like about 3 years old, goes, "Come here, doggy," and the dog was growling at it, standing and growling, and like about to attack it.
Yeah.
And she said everybody stood there frozen, not knowing what to do. And Fatty walked up, and he grabbed the child really quick and took the child away. And he handed the child to his mother, but instead of thanking him, the mother was appalled and she ran off with the child. And they said that Fatty was so distraught and so hurt that he wanted to cry. And
very sensitive.
Very sensitive.
Yeah.
And the director actually offered to cheer him up by buying him an apple pie with some ice cream on it to cheer him up.
Oh, poor guy. Then they what do they do to cheer him up? Let me give you food, which will make you even worse.
That's what he offered to do.
I know.
And she said she witnessed that whole thing as a child. She witnessed that whole thing. And that made me realize what kind of personality Fatty Arbuckle was. Very sensitive. And I don't think he would never do something like that.
I think it was... I mean, we already obviously did a show on this.
Right, we did.
I think Virginia and the other woman who was with her, who had a shady background.
Yeah.
I think the whole thing was dreamed up to exploit Fatty Arbuckle and get
I think
money,
so too.
Extort money out of him, and I think it backfired.
Yeah.
She died. I think she just died. I don't think she died because someone crushed her.
No.
I think she just died, and they blamed it on him, and they made up a story. It killed his career. But again, it's sad. But when they say cold and icy, a lot of people think, "Oh, she's such a scammer."
Right.
But there's nothing to say that the other woman. I think her name was Maud.
Maud, yeah. Apparently, she was a scammer. She was a known scammer.
She's probably got her to do it, or tried to get her in on it.
Yeah.
And maybe she died during this thing. So, this woman.
The whole thing turned out ugly.
Fatty lost his career. And this other woman, who I think was found guilty later on, took a while.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a sad case.
It's a sad case. And folks, please listen to our St. Francis show where we have some EVPs and some evidence from going in there. And we go more into the story. But it's...
we actually do EVPs where down the road on Maiden Lane where they had their party first.
Yeah.
And then we go up into the hotel where we do some EVP sessions too.
Yeah, it's worth listening to, folks.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And there's Spencer and...
Jim Moore's there. Ask for Jim Moore if you go in.
Frank Moore, actually.
Frank Moore?
Yeah, Frank Moore.
Upstairs
yeah.
We got another EVP.
Ask for Frank Moore.
But we got another EVP upstairs. We said, who's there? And he says, Jim.
Oh, okay.
So
and there was also a Frank Moore too that we got.
Tim Moore and just Jim.
Yeah, and Jim. And you know what was interesting about that, folks? I'm going to tell you right now. I looked up their names connected with San Francisco and the St. Francis, and I found it. Mm-hmm. One of them this was from a San Francisco newspaper that's no longer around. They mention him as a player for the St. Francis Orchestra, as one of the musicians, and he was also a groom at a wedding that was held there, and they were between the years 1918 to 1922, where he was mentioned connected with the St. Francis. So we actually found that person.
That's interesting.
By looking him up.
I wonder if that's the same Tim Moore. That's interesting. Mm-hmm. Who knows? But see, Hollywood has many, many connecting stories.
And I read stories about people who visited the Hollywood Cemetery.
That's right.
And this one woman, she claims that she never went back because something followed her home. And so for weeks, some force or energy would hide things around her apartment. After she returned from the cemetery, she said she got shudders thinking about it. A lot of people claim that they go to that cemetery and they were freaked out by the energy there. And so...
This is the guy, Cheshire.
Yeah.
He's been to Hollywood forever a few times to see both bands play and movies shown there, and at least him and some of his pagan friends were there. Seemed to be a lot of energy flowing in and out of the area, and that it may be that not only are there a lot of haunts, but maybe some sort of energy influx that's there in general. That's interesting.
I believe it. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. And I believe that there's also a guided cemetery tour that you can take there.
That'd be cool. It's like 2 hours, I think.
Yeah. So anyway, interesting place, and you should visit. And that's
it's a Hollywood attraction, even in death. Hollywood is an attraction. See,
it is. And if you have any stories that you can relate to us from visiting there, we'd like to hear it.
Yeah, and if we go, we're going to do a little EVP work.
Yeah, we'll do our own.
We'll do a little backup episode if we do find some stuff.
Right.
And we'll see if we can get anything.
I hope so.
See if we can get Valentino to talk to us.
That would be very cool.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Then we could brag we talked to Valentino.
Yeah, sort of.
And everybody can look at us like we're crazy.
Exactly.
But we're used to that, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
We are. Okay.
That's it.
It's another interesting episode. All right, folks. Until we see you next time on Ecto Portal. Bye.
Bye.
Royalty-free, copyright-free music by Kevin MacLeod and Ross Bugden.